Hi, Amit. Thank you so much for coming on Material Talks and giving us your time to share your experiences. When I approached you, you said you'd like to talk about local handicrafts that you've used in a recent project, and you've reinvented the materials that are available locally. Can you tell me a little more
Yeah.
about, what local handicrafts did you use and how did you reinvent them?
Thanks, Krishika. So we've actually done this project recently called the Andhra Art and Craft Hotel, and I think the whole journey has been so gratifying in terms of being able to work with so many different people. We worked with nearly about 130 different artisans and artists from Vizag. So a lot of them were just local artists who were, doing dabbling in different kinds of medium of art, and most of them were actually craftsmen who are doing these local crafts, like how you have there's in Andhra there are these different crafts, like Kalamkari belongs to Andhra. Kalamkari everybody knows, it's world famous. And then you have Etikopaka. Etikopaka is like these lacquer toys which they make,
Okay.
and it's like an amazing little, very interesting and colorful, boisterous looking. I think I have a little
Oh,
stand over here,
wow.
which is a phone stand. So they do small little utilitarian, and mostly it is always a toy manufacturing a craft essentially.
Okay.
So that I think was the most exciting for me, because there's so many beautiful colors that we use, and we infuse the interiors with that. So this project was a boutique hotel, 24 rooms, and all 24 rooms are different. So we have 4 wings, and each wing is based on one local craft.
Right.
So this is where I think I found my love of being able to work with them. And I think more than anything, it was the authenticity of actually working with the craftsmen themselves. You
Right.
know,
And
so yeah.
when you decided to use these local handicrafts, uh, how did you incorporate them in a hotel, right? Because crafts can be a very, like normally they're loose items that you place in a room versus actually design using the entire craft to come, make a room come alive. So what was your thought
Yeah.
process behind reinventing it as a material versus just like an artifact?
So that was exactly what we had to do, because
Yeah.
most of these toys and the kalamkari fabrics or anything that you talk about, they're actually because they're all handmade, and because they're handmade by these villagers and the craftsmen. A lot of them, especially in Andhra, are very crude. We're not on that level of like maybe a Rajasthan or something where, the stuff is already taken into an international level and stuff like that. There's still a lot very crude. So we had to reinvent the actual item that they were making itself. So we didn't use the Etikopaka toy, but we made them make these little, I'm just giving you an example where we made them make these little pillars. So they have a restriction on the size that they can make, the width that they can make, depending on their lathe machine. So we actually made these small little pillars that we incorporated into a huge colonial bed backdrop that we made for the backrest of the bed. So it was just a plain white backdrop, or maybe a plain like a dull neutral color backdrop, and all these colorful pillars studded into it. So it just came out gorgeous, the whole
And
effect. So this is just one thing.
yeah, I know. Like I was reading up on your article that was covered, and it was very interesting. And my first thought was, like, was it a problem to get them to scale? So what happens is when you're working with craftsmen and they're used to making smaller sizes, the minute you have to scale it up, the
Yeah.
uniformity type kind of gets affected. So how did you work with
Yeah.
that?
So yeah, working with the craftsmen, what happens is that they're very set in their ways. You tell them to do something new, and they're like, So you need somebody who'll be able to speak their language, and and also you have to tempt them with the money. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was, But we were fortunate enough, I think, to find uh, people who were very interested that okay, we're going to do something different from what we usually do, and we gave them a bulk quantity. It wasn't a small quantity that they were doing.
They
So
were excited.
automatically I think they got interested. Yeah.
Did you guys as a team face challenges with the craftsmen beyond just getting them to understand scale? When you're reinventing and experimenting with newer materials, was there something you learned or you realized about the process?
You have to keep it simple with them. So when we were working with them, we had to make sure that we didn't make it look like this larger than life thing that we're creating. We just said, make these 50 pillars for us, and this is the colors that we want. Because see, those colors are also, they're restricted with colors, they're restricted with size. The colors are all organic colors. They use them from seeds, from leaves, from lacquer, from so many different things. So it's a beautiful process. So we didn't want to reinvent the colors of their toys and stuff, because you don't want to go away from the organic color. So we told them we're being true to you. But it did happen where we had issues with maybe sometimes communicating with them. because the dialect is different. You know, you're there in a different village. So, and then suddenly the craftsman is not picking up your number, and you can't travel 200-300 kilometers away each time to go and find them. So he's not picking up your phone. And so, and then, you know, you have an opening the next day, because we launched each wing separately. So you have an opening the next day and you're not able to track them. On the launch day, in fact, we had all of these guys, all the craftsmen, actually sitting at the launch and creating while the guests were walking around with their glass of wine. You know, so it was very interesting. They could actually buy
very
also.
fun and very, I would
So
say,
each time we'd have to tempt them. Yeah, each time we'd have to tempt them, saying that, you know, okay, you know, you can sell your wares there at the party. You know, that kind of things we also did. And a lot of people bought also,
so
surprisingly.
majorly, like I would say, logistical challenges were the first thing, because of course they're not around and they're not, you know, accessible as easily. And what did you think they brought on to the experience? Like, of course, they know their craft best, but do you think their expertise helped you refine your ideas?
Absolutely. I mean, the authenticity and the kind of, when we delved into the craft, all we knew was what was on the internet, right?
Yeah.
But when we actually went to the villages and sat with them and looked at their, you know, their machines and how they work, it's amazing. There's this leather puppetry was one of them. It's called Tolu Bommalata. It's a leather puppet show that they actually, they stand behind. It's like a shadow puppetry. So there's a screen and these people stand behind it. They wrap the entire life-size puppet to their bodies, and then they dance around. So what the audience only sees is the shadow in front. They don't see the person who it's tagged on to. So it's very interesting, you know, to actually sit. And then they make these leather puppets, and they actually sit and paint each one separately. So in the restaurant, we have the whole story of the Ramayana on different facet of each light fitting. So it starts with one scene and goes to the last scene, you know, completely. So that the story is just told in those lamps itself. Even though they're really small, there's a little brochure on everybody's table explaining that they can do that. And then once people read it, their eyes widen, and then they want to look around and, you know, enjoy the experience after that. So there's so many things that we didn't know until we actually sat them, and the kind of finesse that goes into it. It's very unfortunate that most of these are dying, and right now, especially with what's happened the last 4-5 months, it's even worse. So we've been trying to do whatever we can for them. But, you know, for a fact that these are things that you shouldn't let die.
Yeah.
You know?
And also bringing it to life, right? Like interpreting it in your own way is what's making it heard about a scene. So you would mention about the leather shadow puppetry as well as the lacquer work. Can you talk a little about, you know, I read about Budithi brass work and the Kalamkari pen art. So how did you integrate those art forms into your current hotel project?
So we even, you know, I was only talking about one bed backdrop, but if you talk about the Budithi, the most interesting part of that room was this bench that we created against the window. It was a fixed bench, but we used these temple sculpture inspired brackets to hold the bench up. And we actually had the Budithi brass chains. They actually do brass molding, brass chains, holding them from the ceiling to the bench. So it looks like a jhula. It doesn't move, but it just looks like as though, you know, that thing was incorporated into it. And then we also used, they do a lot of brass pots. You know, so we used that craft, but we used it onto a fiberglass model. So we actually made a temple art, like you know, like an apsara, like a little a nude of a woman which you'd find in the you know, the temple, and we'd have the entire dress done in the brass banged onto the entire body. You know, so that was a really beautiful piece that they made. And then behind it we had a painting. You know, so there was a lot of multiple mixed media that we used. We used in one mural itself. We would use so many different relief works and acrylic on canvas, and so many different ideas that would go into one.
So,
you know,
to get an idea about the process, say if you were going to someone who's doing the Budithi brass work and you wanted it on a fiberglass, is that where the whole coordination came in? That, you know, we want to do this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, like
it was, you know, I think we have enough mock-ups and samples to make one more hotel also right now. You know, there's so many things that we did which we didn't like, and then we chucked, and then we had to do again. And you know, luckily, like they have the hotel is already an existing hotel, and this was a new branch. You know, so the existing hotel, after that, they decided to renovate the room. So we used all the samples there, because those also were, each one was a different piece, and we replicated them. So there was no wastage at the end of it. But for a fact, to be able to do one mural which had, like, I'll give you an example of the leather puppetry room. The
Yeah.
backdrop was, we wanted to make it look like a theater, like a puppet theater. So the backdrop was fabric, which has those theater scallops on top. And then there's an acrylic painting at the back. On it, there's a relief work of fiberglass work, which, you know, maybe a boat. There was one with a little whale in between. We did little quirky things in a few of them also. And on that, we pasted the leather onto that, onto the relief work. So it's so many multiple things that went into it that, you know, even to this day, we keep thinking that how we got through those 1.5 years.
Was there a specific, you know, process you were following to make it durable? So I think hotels need the most durable elements in itself, even if it's just a bed
Yeah.
back, because of the high use.
Yeah.
So what did you make sure
Yeah.
that all these local crafts that you're integrating can stand the test of time?
We had to, what we had to do was introduce things like lacquer sprays on top. We had to look at, you know, polyurethane sprays on top, just to make sure that they don't get
Yeah.
dirty or easily, or they don't get, or the dyes don't, you know, fade away after some certain time. So that was a lot of trial and error in itself, where we spray something and then those natural dyes would react with it, you know. So
Yeah.
then there you're sort of losing the whole, you know, the color red would turn into like a very deep maroon. So you're losing the authenticity. So we had to do a lot of experimenting for this. Then we had to, of course, you know, maybe like the kalamkari fabrics that we used, we had to infuse, we had to put them behind glass, you know. So now,
Yeah.
how much ever we don't like doing that, we had to, you know, because putting it
To
behind glass sort
safeguard
of
it.
takes away.
Yeah.
But to safeguard it, you have to do it, you know, because it's you're trying to keep it authentic. So what we did for the wardrobes frontage, we actually had the kalamkari artist and a local artist from Vizag itself put together these panels without fabric. We did it on ply. So the guy would actually block print them himself, and then the local artist would actually fill in the color after. So through that, we got this idea of creating these very quirky pieces. So the bed backdrop pieces, which are out of acrylic, we actually had both of them work together on it. So they use the kalamkari fabric patterns,
Yeah.
and they fill in with color, but it was an acrylic on canvas ultimately. So, you know, no, there's no touching it.
Okay, so my last question to you is, what would be your advice to budding designers who want to incorporate, you know, local crafts from their own cities into a project that they're doing? How should they go about it, or, you know, what should be the steps they should take?
I think first thing is to keep it very, very authentic, you know, because the gratification that we got from this project and the amount of publicity, the amount of press that we got from this project, you know, that's a selfish aspect of it. But also the part where you're actually helping these guys, you know, you're actually helping them reinvent their own techniques. Maybe we came up with so many new things which they didn't know that they could do, and they've created these new products now which they're selling on different platforms, and they're very happy about it, that they've been able to reinvent, you know. Apart from that, of course, for the fact that if you're keeping it authentic, that's when, you know, you feel that, okay, you've done something worthwhile. You know, that's very important. So if you're reaching out, like say a new designer is reaching out, reach out directly to the craftsman. Don't reach out to the stores that will sell you those items and stuff. Maybe that's okay in the initial stages, just to see what you can do with the product and understand the product. But reaching out to the actual craftsman is where your actual strength will lie. You know, where he'll be able to help you out and you'll be able to help him out. And it's a very mutual, beautiful relationship that you can create from it. So I think that's what the biggest advice would be, that, you know, reach out to the real craftsman.
And what would you say is, how much time should they be ready to give a project where they're going to be working with local craftsmen? Because I think that's where sometimes people forget, right? That it's not going to be as easy as, okay, meet them and get something.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And, you know, just because you're getting into a local craftsman doesn't mean that you'll actually be able to do it in a smaller budget also.
Yeah.
So it's the time, the effort, the budget, it's a lot of it that goes into it, but it's worth it in the end. I wouldn't take that 1.5 years back for anything.
So basically you had a lot to take away as well. Like, it enriched you, the process in terms of
Yes.
designing this hotel. Yeah. And okay, this was great. Is there anything else that you'd like to add, talk about in terms of local crafts that I've not touched upon, that you'd want to share with the audience watching this?
I think you've covered a lot of it, but I do think that, you know, it's very important to see, you realize that the local craft is only limited by your imagination. You have to be able to say that, okay, let's take this to the next level. You have to be able to know that this would do this for your project and for your client, because ultimately you're working for them.
Yeah.
And at the same time, keeping it real for the craftsman. I think that's most important. Everybody keep that in mind when they're actually getting into using local craft, because there's so many people who are doing different beautiful things for the craftsmen nowadays. You know, there's the craft councils and so many of the big designers also doing so many different things. But I felt this was on such a base level where we really interacted with only the craftsmen, and you know, it gave us so much more depth to what we do.
Yeah.
I'd say it that way. And you know, after that, the kind of projects that we've been doing, I feel I've just put in that much more effort and that much more detail into doing these projects, and I'm very excited to see the new homes and stuff that we've been doing right now, and how they're going to come out. So yeah.
So I think you basically are saying that you have to be the flag bearer of innovation. They can help you with their creativity, but how you innovate it and how do you fit it to your current project is where the designers will have to put in their time and effort to get something beautiful out
Absolutely.
of it. Right. Thank
Absolutely.
you so much. And this was like, I think, a very interesting conversation for me. A very new, craft to learn about as well when I was researching. And I hope that everyone watching this like has something to take away.
Thank you. Thank you so much.